Jackie Weber is a senior at Michigan State University, and like many students, finding a job after graduation is a concern, especially after seeing what her father went through just a couple years ago.
He would often come home from work and continue working just because you never knew when the next round of layoffs were going to come and what exactly you were going to be judged on.
Jackie's father works for Ford Motor Company, and for many Michigan residents, the bailout of the big three auto companies and the layoffs that came with it are still felt.
Probably the worst day that he ever had at work. 3 of his best work friends all got fired on the same day. They were all given packages to leave. But on top of that, since he was the employee that stayed, he had to absorb all of their work. So he was reminded every day that his friends left.
Back in 2008, the global recession made its way into the auto industry, greatly affecting the sales of the big three, General Motors, Chrysler, and Ford. Fast forward into 2009, and Chrysler and GM, both facing bankruptcy, turned to Washington for a bailout. Eventually, it got to the point where the government had a decision to make: loan the money or leave the big three to fend for themselves.
GM and Chrysler had to be restructured. It worked because we avoided a crash and burn.
A crash and burn that could have cost the state of Michigan thousands of jobs. A close call for students that have one thing on their minds.
It's still really difficult for a college graduate to find a job.
They want to be able to have a job when they get out of college.
They want to make sure that there's a job market out there that's conducive to new graduates.
And with the Michigan Republican primary quickly approaching and the general election to follow, jobs in the economy will be the focus for many students.
I think a lot of students are really interested in which candidate is going to be able to provide jobs when they graduate, because I think a lot of students worry about they're going to pay for their education.
The state of the Michigan economy will be a hot topic for those voting in the primary, especially for students who may have to look for jobs out of state. But for many, things are looking up.
There are still a lot of prospects, and in fact, our economy is now a lot stronger than it was 2 years ago.
You need a good environment for jobs, not just the auto industry. And so I think that's what Michigan is doing. The next administration needs to make sure that states have the ability to create a good environment, not just in their state, but nationally.
The Michigan State University College Republicans are not planning on officially endorsing a candidate until the general election. But there is still work to be done in planning for a primary.
Right now, it's just get out there and make sure that you vote, because that's what it is. That's what the primary is for.
As student voters head to the polls hoping to save their state's economy and find a job, economists have one thing to say: don't panic.
We've had a tough decade economically. There's no question about it. But I believe that the public impression often is far worse than the reality.
Especially for a state that seems to be on the upswing.
Michigan has so many assets. I think it's a beautiful state. We've got good universities, in fact, great universities. We've got a lot of things going for us.
And who the voters choose on February 28th and ultimately later this year could determine Michigan's success in the future. For Washington Week, I'm Anthony Sabella.